everybody, and welcome to Naughty or Nice with Miss Cassie. I'm so glad to have you here tonight, and I'm especially glad to have my special guest, Dr. Limor Blockman.
Woohoo! Great!
Yay! So did the audience miss Lola? Aw, she's so cute. Hi, sweetie. Oh. Well, before we figured out that we were having these technical difficulties, we were actually talking about, the difference in growing up in technology. Like, you grew up in Israel, born in 1977, and you didn't have the same technology advancements that the U.S. did. And but you were actually born at a very interesting time where you got to experience some innocence of childhood before the technology revolution.
Right, absolutely. Can you still hear me well?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm saying that truly it was a real pleasure to, again, grow up. Kind of, we had some advances, in terms of technology. And as I said, because of their region, because I was raised in a place that was fairly new and, was not as advanced as states, I still got to kind of benefit from not such a technological childhood, which I'm very grateful for. And we actually, played outside. We had friends. We didn't have play dates. We would just drop over and, knock on someone's door and, play outside until it was dark and no one was concerned. It was kind of, bliss. I think that it's something that is really missing from just growing up now.
Oh, I understand that totally. My nieces and nephews have never had that luxury. My nieces, for as long as I remember, and they're still teenagers now, always, it was the Game Boys, the cell phones. And, I asked my brother, aren't they kind of young for this? And he says, you don't understand. Their friends have all this and more. It's almost considered abuse if we don't provide it for our children.
That is just awful to me. It's very unfortunate.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel, and again, as I said, the lack of communication, we just like to, and adults mainly, I'm not even talking about children, but mainly we just like to kind of hide behind a keyboard or a cell phone or anything that doesn't apply. People get upset when they get a phone call. Most of them say, why don't you just text me? It became like almost a joke. It's people ridicule the idea of actually talking, which is unfortunate to communication in general. I'm not even talking about anything that's more of a relational kind of manner, but anything that is communication between people, and that affects, of course, everything else. So, yeah.
Oh, I agree. People don't talk. People just don't talk to each other. It's, it is the quick text messages. When I take a new submissive under consideration, they don't usually last long with me because I actually expect them to write their emails in a proper letter format with a greeting, the body of the letter, and a proper letter closing. I mean, it's a lot art, and to me, it's a sign of respect. I don't like the fact that we've become so casual in our communication and so flippant. I mean, people don't realize when you type in all caps in an email, yeah, you're trying to get somebody's attention, but that's actually rude and that's bad business etiquette. Just like if you were to sign a business document in red ink, it would be considered bad etiquette. Etiquette has gone to the wayside. People have become too casual and lost the actual meaning of conversation.
Yes, I fully agree, and that, as I said, applies to so many aspects of life, but especially, even in the romantic world, you would say, because I see many couples, and I deal with individuals, and their inability to create anything And it has a lot to do with the fact that if you try to initiate something, for instance, you will text somebody, and that is not a form of communication that is, to me, acceptable. Because you don't learn anything from that. You can't even understand emotion. I mean, there's nothing, even if you use emoticons or other forms of trying to explain something, you can't hear the sound of the person, voice, and anything else that has to do with that. So it's really a shame, and I hope that at one point, and I don't want to go into the whole idea of how technology really harms us on a cellular level and what it does to our environment in general, and the idea of being so connected to technology, because it's not the topics that we're going to discuss. But in general, it's only harmful to us, to society in general.
Well, I agree. My other job is I'm a neuromuscular therapy specialist. I've been doing massage therapy for over 16 years. One thing I have found out doing this over this years is that this society is extremely touch deprived and has no knowledge of what actual proper touch is. We get guys in, for a massage, and they're trying to have sex with a therapist. That doesn't fly. That's not okay. That is not appropriate, because people don't know how to communicate, how to have a real relationship. All this hookup online stuff, it's just, I like to have a real date. I like to talk. I don't know. I'm old fashioned. I like it when a man actually takes me out, buys me dinner, and opens my door.
Honestly, it's not old fashioned. It's really how it should be. There's many forms of courting someone, and I'm a big believer in gender roles, you would say, in a way. And I do believe that it's very necessary. For instance, I don't know about other women, and it has nothing to do with being a feminist, because I think that being a real feminist, of course, we all kind of decide for ourselves what does it mean. But to me, it means that you're grounded and you're strong in your own place, but you're not seeking to be a man. You're not seeking to be equivalent, because we're not. We're very different individuals and human beings, per se. So it doesn't really have to do with that, but I do support the idea that a man should behave like a man and kind of invest in a woman that he's interested in, and not spend a check, but actually take her out to dinner and invest in it, and be attentive and listen and look and use all his senses, to kind of make a point. It doesn't really happen that often anymore, I find.
No, it doesn't. And things are so confusing. I work with a lot of girls that are 30 years younger than me. And what they go through in the dating world is unreal. I mean, if they ask the guy out, the guy expects them to pay. A lot of times when the guy asks them out, the guy expects them to split the bill with them. I mean, what has happened to this world? I mean, that's not right.
That is absolutely not right. And there's a site I came across just the other day. It was actually just a random post that I was doing for some project, and then I came across it, and it was called, and there's no association between me and that site. I found it charming, because it was called The Art of Manliness, which I found fascinating, because men are not really men anymore, under my idea of what a man should do. And that has nothing to do with society or, culture. I do find that I'm putting Western society in one bucket, which is not really fair, but I'm trying to just for the sake of the argument, I'm saying that men in Western society really lost all they're not connected to the manly side of them. They're not chivalrous. They're not courting. They have no interest in impressing anybody. And yeah, it comes down to that point of what you said, that first of all, I don't feel that it should be initiated. I feel just for the sake of courting and being interested in showing his interest, he should be the one initiating. But let's just say that a woman does that, to split the bill with her, I mean, that's just rude. This is just how I feel. And honestly, I practice what I preach. I don't find it charming. To me, it has nothing to do with being feminist. We can earn the same, but you still need to kind of make an effort and show that you're interested and show that you kind of want to take charge of the situation. Not in a domineering way, but just in kind of a chivalrous way, as it says, which is very lacking and very unfortunate.
Oh, good. Because it's getting really hard to hear. You know, I agree a lot with you. Chivalry's gone to the wayside. You know,
Yeah.
you know, there's no tradition. Our young people don't have a rite of passage to follow anymore. When I was a little girl, I remember looking up at my mom and thinking, oh, someday I'm going to get to wear that girdle and those gloves and that matching hat and the matching person's shoes. And I'm going to go from dressing like a little teeny bopper to dressing up like a real woman. And then I will have the role of marrying a husband and raising a family and taking the role of cooking and you know, and the roles were very set. And actually, because of my age, they actually thought they didn't need to put as much investment into me as a girl because I was more than likely going to be married by the time I was out of high school. You know, but then 1972, Gloria Steinem, Women's Lib, everything changed. Everything's changed. You know, and yes, women wanted equality, but we really just wanted equal pay for the same job that men were doing, you know, because I mean, there was not really equal pay. I mean, women were doing the same job as men, but because it was still thought of as men, quote, being the breadwinner, women didn't need to make as much money, you know. We were just trying to make it fair to provide for your family, not all this taking everything away and changing the entire family dynamic. You know,
I so agree.
Yeah, you know, all family dynamics are the same, whether they're, you know, same-sex couples, heterosex couples, or whatever they're mixed with. Family values are still family values. And it still kind of comes, yes, it all comes down to some sort of tradition.
Yes. I do, you know, I have an issue with everything. Of course, I admire women's movement and everything that feminism kind of brought, but there's a few issues with that, and I think that women that grew up after, you know, second wave feminism of the 70s and everything, it's kind of more problematic because we were taught that we can't actually do everything that men can do, and we should actually strive for it and do it and be like men. But then once you come into the sexual double standard, then you understand that yes, you can strive for it, but you're still not allowed to do this and that, and you still does not the equivalent of degrading words like slut or other words that have to do with degrading women or making them feel bad when there's no equivalent to male. A male equivalent when it comes to it. But we were raised to believe that we can do everything, so why can't we, for instance, have casual sex and not be called names? So I think that the message that came out of this big revolution was, of course, on one hand, very positive because we were able to achieve a lot of rights that we were lacking at the time and still working towards it. But the thing is that it created kind of a platform for something that really doesn't stand, you know, the facts of reality. Because as I said, you know, if you go to college and you're going to sleep around, if you're a guy, you're the man.
Yeah.
But if you're a woman, you're definitely going to acquire, you know, all sorts of names. And one of them would be a slut, and that could happen even when you're in middle school, before you ever had sex at all. So it's just the double standard is never going to kind of disappear. And so it needs to be leveled, you know, between the revolution and the ability that women actually have the right to do the same thing with men, because they don't.
No.
Everybody assumes that they really do have all the ability to do that without, suffering consequences. It's kind of lying to yourself. To top it off, I think that Betty Friedan, when she wrote, The Secret Garden and other, it's not The Secret Garden, that was the big feminist book, I forget the name, the initial book that she released, actually was talking about the fact that women kind of felt, that they were being housewives and they were not really fulfilling themselves. But when she came back to interview women in the 90s, she came across women that were frustrated because, and one of them actually writes that about that incident in her second book. And she said that one of the main executives in the big TV channel that she was working, she was a big producer there, and she took her to the side and she told her, look, your generation was married and had kids. What are we supposed to do? We told everybody that we want to have a career. What are we going to do now? Now we have to pursue something, but then everybody still expects us to do everything else. So nobody cut us any, slack here. We just got more to carry on the two shoulders.
Well, absolutely. My brother's wife is about 10 years younger than me, and this is the difference between my generation and hers. My generation still had the hope of being okay to just be a housewife. Her generation does not have that luxury. Not only are they expected to be the housewife, the wife, the mother, they're also expected to hold down a full-time job, clean the house, do everything they did before, plus hold that 40-hour-a-week job.
At least, yeah. Self-employed, and then you need to do even more.
Yeah, and it's just like, they didn't make it easier. They just basically, they said they were evening up the fields, but what they didn't realize is that, men went to work and earned the thing in the camel, but they didn't usually come home, clean the house, cook dinner, and take care of the kids. Women are expected to do all of that. And it's unfortunate, and it's been that way for several decades, and it's really starting to wear on people. And people, oh yes, it must be. It's not equal. They don't realize it is just not equal.
I think I kind of lose you. The sound is. I can't hear you.
Oh.
Can you hear me? Oh.
I can hear you.
I can hear you. It just goes. I can't know it. But yeah. Keep talking. I missed a sentence.
Oh, I got spaced out a little bit. I think we were just going on about the whole idea that basically the whole women, empowered women, liberated woman. Really, she ended up with more responsibility. It wasn't so much a liberation.
Yeah, and that's the problem with kind of pursuing something that you don't. And again, I have the utmost respect for the liberation movement, and I think they achieved grand, achievements. That's not even a question. But the thing is really, and even the situation now, I think of a lot of young women, younger generation, kind of is opposed to using the term feminist because it's kind of it kind of became, and not a positive word. At this point, it's kind of, younger women are trying to avoid being related to a feminist because it's kind of, it has negative correlations sometimes, and sometimes, it's kind of a pursuit of something that is not feminine in a way, which shouldn't be, because, we're all after the same goal of being, positive, of being empowered, of feeling good about ourselves. But again, it needs to be, we're not equal. I don't think we'll ever be equal. There's no need to kind of fight over it. We are women, they're men, and that is fine. There's no question about it. Yeah, there's other factors that should, always kind of be pursued in terms of pay and other things. But we do have more responsibility. I don't think it's a positive condition. And, I think things need to change before sure they keep on being titled positive feminism. And there are different branches that have to do with that movement that are more kind of empowering women on that road. But it's kind of a shame that things kind of turned into that from the original idea that was really grand and revolutionary.
Yeah, well, I know I've talked to so many young women, and they're exploring their sexuality. And for some reason, we think that women nowadays at 18 are supposed to be fully mature and fully understand the sexual animal. And they send them to these silly classes going, oh, yes, honor your flower, your goddess, and blah, blah, blah. And when you do this with a man, it's supposed to be this beautiful thing. And then they get out there, and basically the guy sees this, and they see an easy mark. Oh God, I can get laid tonight. And they totally end up using her. And she goes back and she says, I did everything they said. I empowered it. I stated my boundaries. I did this. I did that. Why did he take advantage of me?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I absolutely agree. Again, it goes down to the same message that we receive. And I think that on that, and if I heard you correctly, because you were cutting out, but I want to relate to, as you said, to the other side, males in our society. And I think that if you look at American society, comparing to other societies, the situation, the conditions are worse because it's kind of, I would call it frat society. You're kind of in a pursuit of getting laid or achieving something or conquering something or in the conquest of something. It's not the same in other Western societies. Of course, I'm not even talking about Eastern societies or tribal societies that we can go on and on. But the idea here is kind of, a college mentality of kind of pursuing something and just, marking a V next to this woman or that woman just as a pursuit. And women feel that they kind of need to play the game as well, because if you don't,
yeah, they do. They do, and I get this, they're like, you should know better. Women are smarter now. No, they're still trying to con us out of our pussies. I'm sorry. I've seen guys try more things to get into my fucking drawers, man. And you can't have this. It belongs to me and it belongs to my girlfriend. You guys can't have it. Mel says there's a couple questions in the chat room. Anything interesting, Mel?
Yeah, Art Miller has said there are double standards with regards to 50 Shades of Grey as well, because we were they're into BDSM. He says, but it could go too far. Some guys don't necessarily know how to maintain, as well as it's all about communication. And one of the things that Art Miller is asking also, okay, this is, I don't know if we should get into this one. Doesn't Playboy endorse this mindset or endorsement? And I don't know. I'm from the 60s. So we did burn our bras. We did start all of this revolution of women getting out and, I can bring home the bacon, I can fry it up. And, a lot of women are pretty much fried up from having to, handle a household, a family, and work, and their bosses. And it's really difficult. And we still are not getting equal pay, better pay. Things have changed for women. And I really don't know if it's for the better. I really don't know.
Again, it's a question. It is a definite question. And I don't know about Playboy endorsing. I didn't understand exactly what he meant in terms of women being the toys that they were looked at, or is that what he is referring to? Or
I think maybe it was the objectification that happens when when those kind of magazines started becoming more mainstream, when it went from the back alley photos of what Betty Page was doing, and then all of a sudden we had this beautiful mainstream magazine that was supposed to be, quote, classy. Marilyn Monroe was on that. I mean,
he says fictional versus reality.
Oh, yes.
Which is kind of interesting. I think that Playboy has done a lot for our sexuality and our sensuality, but how much of it is fiction?
Yeah, in general, the adult magazines have been, providing something that society is in quest of. That's just a given. I think that objectification of women, it's a complete, kind of choice that you make. It has nothing to do, and that's not even a societal kind of thing, because, if you look at other societies, the cultural differences between us and Europe, for instance, even in the 50s, places like, Italy were known for pursuing women in a rude way, or kind of, touching when you're not supposed to. And this is a different society from here, so you can't really, I think it's a matter of choice, and I think that what the magazines are doing is just kind of presenting a picture. But more importantly, I think that because us as society kind of developed this thing that we are equal, so we should, we have the same rights as men. And so, as I said, as I started saying prior, we should pursue casual sex as well, which I'm supportive of, if you choose to. But then it kind of puts the things that we had as a kind of a secret weapon, it turned it into something that was kind of just a given. And now women feel uncomfortable if they choose not to have casual sex. And I hear it from many college kids, women in college, that don't want to have casual sex, but they feel, kind of obligated to it.
Well, yeah, the 3-date rule, for whatever reason now, after 3 dates, you're expected to have sex. That's not going to happen.
Even on the first date.
Yeah, it's like with me, that's not going to happen unless we have chemistry, and
Absolutely. It has nothing to do with the number of dates.
yes. Did you have a question, Mel?
Yeah, I have kind of a statement, and my statement is this: it's really amazing if people really look at history from the 50s to now. The 60s changed everything. We had the Barbie dolls, we had Twiggy, and we had burning your bras. It changed the way that women look at themselves. Women, we created to be objects from the 60s. We were sexually promiscuous. We had the pill. So that's the fourth thing that changed everything. And the hippie generation, I mean, it changed the way that we look at women. And I mean, the mothers of the 50s were so much different. I mean, they just came out of World War II. I mean, there was just so much, striving, working for your family, making a better middle-class life, and watching the children of this generation, all they want to do is buy, and sex. I mean, it seems like...
It doesn't satisfy anything. That's the main problem. Is that the hippie generation, and yeah, the 60s did change everything. But open, in casual sex and just open sexuality and a celebration of sexuality was actually something that was gratifying. Well, now it's just being used as a tool. And I find that part problematic. Because you can do whatever you want. I mean, of course, it's your choice as a woman or a man, it doesn't really matter. But if you pursue something just out of an obligation, a social obligation that you feel that you need to kind of go with a certain flow, that's not going to make anybody happy. And let alone, if you expect, a relationship to come out of it, that's really kind of a fantasy.
Well, so many things have changed, and it's become such an instant gratification society. When I was growing up, you could talk to any girl growing up, and her 99% of the time is like, I want to grow up and be a mommy. These days, I'm talking to young women, teenagers, 20s, 30s, and I have to tell you, 50% of the women I talk to do not want children, which is unheard of for my generation. I mean, flat out, they said, I've made a decision, and as soon as it's legal for me to tie my tubes, I'm doing it. I do not want to have children. And, it's gotten to the point where sex, has just become this entertainment thing where it used to be for procreation, and everything has just gotten so turned around. I mean, it used to be, you would get married, you would have and now there's people that, they're planning a different life, no children. Maybe they'll get married, but then they plan on both working and, being very rich or something. I mean,
right.
What happened?
I agree. I think that we kind of lost something along the way.
Yeah, my generation did that.
It's all your fault, Mel.
It's all our fault. I'm so sorry. You know, the whole government is our generation. I am so sorry.
No, but I do feel, you know, that generation made such a change, but we took it to the wrong place. I find that now it's just, you know, it's kind of a mandatory thing that you need to enroll in something that society decided for you. And you kind of not thinking for yourself. And that's what I find problematic because, again, you know, women and men both can do whatever they want. I mean, it's a very free world. We are very able to make our choices. We are very protected to make our choices legally, and nobody's kind of questioning. But then there are repercussions that, you know, you kind of have to pay for what your decisions. And if you are, you know, a young woman expecting, I don't know, something to come out of a one-night stand, and it happens a lot, you know. A few studies show that young people, and that applies to both genders, but women in particular, because of oxytocin, you know, the bonding hormone, women expect even a one-night stand or a very casual kind of encounter to turn into, even subconsciously, they expect it to turn into somewhat of a relationship, even if it's not in a form of a full-on romantic relationship. But they're not going to admit to it. They're not going to say anything, not verbally and not, you know, as indirectly. But they are going to expect it and, of course, get disappointed. But they will repeat the same mistake because this is the obligation that society kind of expects them. Otherwise, you're going to be told, if you're doing it, you're like, it's kind of like you dance if you do, you dance if you don't. It's like if you do it, you're a slut. If you don't, you're a nun, or I don't know, other forms of name calling that we like to engage in. And that is a problem. We didn't have that problem way back. And now it's kind of just, you know, a common condition for a young woman or, you know, someone that is trying to kind of find her way. And I'm relating to women because, you know, this is what I see most, kind of face the problem and kind of trying to grow up.
I think Mel has a comment here.
Reality.
Yeah, and you know, we talked about the 60s. The 70s was a big drug time, which was fabulous. Everyone was having sex, fucking everybody else, whoever they could fuck. And then we got herpes. Then we got HIV. And then the whole generation of my daughter's generation was scared. They didn't want to have promiscuous sex. And now our younger generation, because they can wear condoms or they can get tested, I mean, now it's becoming a free-for-all again.
Well, yeah, because they think there's a cure for AIDS.
Yeah.
There's not. They only know how to manage it. But our young people are confused. They think, all I have to do is take a pill.
Yeah.
You do not want to have to just take a pill.
But not only that, the movies. I mean, we have seen slasher movies come into our new generation. They grew up with slasher movies and movies where women are mistreated and people are killed. I mean, we have desensitized this generation. I mean, you look at the video games.
True. Absolutely, I agree. I couldn't hear you guys.
Oh, you couldn't hear me, Rev Mel? What I said about video games? Yeah, I mean, we've had video games, the slasher movies that come out. I mean, it's desensitizing our young people, and that's what our generation now has grown up with.
Well, I remember my friend's teenage son, and his video game comes up, and the characters, there's a menage a trois. The character is having sex with two women. This boy has never even had a date yet, but yet he's seen full animated kinky sex on his video game that is approved for his age, and he's not even 18. And this poor boy didn't have a date till he was 19, and he was still nervous as hell and everything. And when we forget, even though they have exposures to this, they are still kids. You know, a first date is still a first date. And oh my goodness.
True, it is a problem, and I think that actually being 18 18 now, you're much less mature than the earlier generation because we didn't need to go through reality. There's other forms of, tests that kind of were put in front of you that you needed to kind of go through. I think that this generation is so protected, and that makes it even worse because, there's a name for any social condition that comes up. You're not supposed to be talked to a certain way. Everything is bullying. So you're kind of in a shell. And so you don't develop any resilience.
That's true.
There's no ability to deal with things. And on that note, I actually, whenever I'm asked about my military service, I'm always saying that I'm very sensible that at 18 I used to crawl through mud and, carry an Uzi because it kind of made me the person that I am. It was tough. I hated it. I cursed every minute of it. But it kind of builds character, and it doesn't happen in this generation. Unfortunately, it kind of makes people they don't have strength to deal with reality. No,
they actually don't. They, yeah, you're right. They've been sheltered. They've been sheltered in a very strange way. They are just really not prepared to deal with the reality of people. They understand, reality TV, but they don't understand life reality.
Yeah, and I personally feel that reality TV is the demise of society. But this is my opinion. I feel that the fact that we actually were so hung up on being figures of reality that are absolutely not true, it just, makes us unable to think for ourselves. It kind of dumbs us down. A lot of other factors that are not being taken into consideration when we look at this generation, and then we question how come they're not ready to deal with things. And sexism is a big part of it because I think that and there's two separate, definitions of maturity when it comes to sex, and I think that the genital peak is very different from sexual peak.
Oh, yes.
So for instance, genital peak for a man is between 18 and 30, but who's adult enough in terms of sexual peak as an 18-year-old or a 30-year-old to actually know your way around a woman or a man knows. So it's impossible. We kind of mature much later. This generation is so childish and so juvenile in that way that it's very hard to expect anybody to be attentive and, responsive when it comes to true sexuality and a positive sexuality. And nobody's celebrating it. It's all, kind of fake and insufficient, I would say.
Well, yeah, it's just such a crazy mixed up world. I mean, I get men that are half my age hitting on me constantly, and it's just like, you've got all these beautiful women that you're your own age. Why are you after an old woman like me?
Well, first of all, you're not an old woman, and you are beautiful.
Well,
I saw you.
Thank you.
I don't see you right now.
Hey, I even get hit on by 32-year-olds and 25-year-olds. It's from Mel talking.
Both of you ladies are beautiful, and I'm sure you get hit. And you look, what you offer is by far more intriguing than what a young, however beautiful young woman is, because what you offer is the knowledge and the ability to understand sexuality. This is exactly my point, that sexual peak is an ability so much more than just organs and functionality.
Well, I know, but
what people don't understand that you need to, it doesn't grow better with age.
Well, I don't know. I just think so many of these young men they're hooked up on this cougar fantasy. They truly are. For some reason, they think they're going to get this really hot sex, blah, blah, blah. I have news for them. I don't want them. I don't like having to train my lovers.
Very true. I so agree. You know, it's exhausting.
It is, and I'm sorry, I like good sex, and if it's going to take me a year to train you how to do good sex, and no. No, I want somebody closer to my old age that knows how to do this and actually knows how to treat a woman, not just...
And again, we're going back to gender role. It's like a circle because you're going back at all points. You actually have to always go back to gender roles because if you are a gentleman and you are chivalrous and you know how to treat a woman and how to pleasure a woman for that matter, then it's something that you must have acquired with experience and years and life experience. That's not something, you know, I don't care how many women you slept with in college, it's still not applicable to a good lover. And that's exactly my point. And I think that the pursuit of more women and more sex and more casual sex is necessarily going to bring, as I said, you know, kind of the demise of good sexuality. It's not going to bring any positive change in this generation. And I think there has so much to strive for and to learn from older generation. I think the sexuality education should integrate it into something that young people can really kind of learn, you know, to be more attentive and to be a responsive understanding of what good sexuality is. It's not boring.
Yes.
That's far from it.
Hey, Mel, is there any more questions in the chat room?
No, they're just chatting, but there is Lord Bubba says hello to
Hi.
Dr. Limor. And
Hi, Lord Mama.
and Heather's in the chat room, and there are people that are watching. If you're watching the show, please come into the chat room and ask questions. And if you're wondering why it looks and sounds a little bit different today, is because our wonderful guest is live on Skype, and her audio is on her cell phone, because we really wanted to be able to interview this wonderful, wonderful, informative, beautiful woman. Yeah, they're having a great time.
Thank you, my darling. We managed to do this way. So.
Now, you're quite highly educated. I mean, you've got a bachelor's in psychology, and it was a double undergrad. And then I know you had community and was it?
MPH, Public Health and Community Medicine, and my PhD in Human Sexuality.
Which is amazing. I mean, what brought you down this incredible path? This is not a decision you make lightly. I mean, you had to commit yourself to at least a minimum of 12 to 14 years education.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, I think, you know, I've always been asked this question, and the short version would be that, you know, when I decided to sign up for a bachelor's degree in psychology and behavioral sciences, as all, you know, psych majors, I kind of thought it was going to be the next Freud, you know, and then as soon as we hit, you know, psychology 101, I fell asleep and I said, no way, I'm going to deal with this. It was just far too boring to me. And then by my master's, I kind of realized that I do want to be in the field of anything therapeutical, but I wanted it to be a niche. I wanted it to be something that I find much more intriguing. And I always say, you know, in high school, I never did drugs, I never drank. You know, I come from a culture that wasn't that common when I was a teenager, but I always loved bikers and sex and stuff too. You know? So it was kind of natural for me to investigate, and I was always consumed with, you know, human communication and how people, what's the dynamics between people, how do they actually come into this format of creating something together. I was always fascinated by it. And so this is how I decided to pursue it. And it was kind of, you know, a big leap of faith because I did both of my master's and my bachelor in Israel, but my PhD is I got in San Francisco. And then I needed to kind of leave my country and my career there at the time to pursue it. So it was kind of a big step, but I never looked back. I've been very happy.
Oh, that's awesome. Now, you're a sex therapist and a family counselor, and you deal with intimate relationships. Now, a lot of people have misconceptions about what a sex therapist is. Basically, they think it's a hooker with a degree. So you want to explain to them the difference?
I couldn't hear you.
Well, basically, most people think a sex therapist is basically a prostitute with a college degree, which I know is not true. I mean, would you like to enlighten our audience as to what actually goes on with a sex therapist?
Yes, absolutely. I'll be happy to explain because it does have this misconception. And I think, I don't know if you guys caught the movie The Sessions. It was a remarkable, very compelling movie with Helen Hunt playing Cheryl Green, which is who is kind of a colleague in a way. But she's playing a sex therapist or is actually a sex surrogate. And again, there's even on that note, it's not a prostitute that has a college degree, but a sex surrogate actually engages in possibly in kind of hands-on or anything sexual with patients. But again, there's so many terms that have to do with it. As just a general sex therapist, a clinical sex therapist, which is what I do, it does not do anything that is hands-on. So in general, I'm just like any psychologist, but I deal with sexual matters and relational matters. So it's really talk therapy, basically. But when I say that, and that is of course accompanied by my appearance or other factors that have to do with that, and people still immediately, I love the kind of the comment of you must be very good at what you do, So that kind of applies to that. But yeah, there is a misconception. It's unfortunate because I spent close to 12 years in school. So it's a long, long time, and not that I have anything against prostitution. I think it's a very established, well nourished, something that is the foundation of it will never disappear, and I think it's necessary for society. It always has been, always will be. But we are not prostitutes, and we're not really doing anything that is physical with our patients.
That was a great explanation. Was there any comments in the chat room, Mel? Or
No, but I have a question.
okay.
Okay, Dr. Limor. Let's say I was your patient and I was going to go see you because I have not had sex in 4.5 years. It terrifies me to be intimate with someone because all of my phobias come up. Would I be a perfect candidate to go to a person for sex therapy?
Yes, definitely. Look, it's a very general question because it depends what source of phobias and what was actually, what was the trigger and how they turn into phobias. They always say if you deal with your fears, they'll become, they're not your fears anymore. The thing is, really, you have to kind of question where these phobias are coming from, and that applies to sex therapy as well, because if you deal with someone, and I can spot people that I have to kind of forward to deal with and refer to deal with sex therapy because, for instance, they were, virgins at the age of 35. It's not only a movie that happens in reality, but or someone that had, bad encounters and shut off and is not having sex anymore. It really depends on the circumstances. Some of them I can actually help them not to hands-on therapy, and some of them will require more either hypnosis or sex therapy and other forms of therapy. At times I work in an integrated manner with just a general psychologist, someone who is a clinical psychologist, and then we can then focus on the sexuality aspect and then just other issues that the patient has. I have a few of them. But in general, I really deal with anything that has to do with either functionality or anything that is, kind of a more of an emotional blockage that people have. And that's basically everything, because most of us are not impaired physically. Most of us do deal with emotional hang-ups and inhibitions or repressions that come from the way we were raised, cultural issues, trauma, other things that have to do with it, the first step is really to kind of find where it comes from and admit it to yourself. That's a very major step that a lot of people go through a lifetime without actually achieving.
Wow.
Thank you. I think that maybe I'll make an appointment.
Now, I have a question for you. You want to tell us about the Smut Diaries?
The Smut Diaries. Oh yeah, it's one of my favorite projects. The Smut Diaries is basically what it sounds. It's a site that I kind of founded and created, and it has everything that has to do with everything that has to do with anything written, poetic, but really kind of dirty and sexy, and erotica for the masses, I would say, because it's not gentle. It is rather racy. There are different sections within Smut Diaries. One of the first projects was something that I called SSS, which is Seeking Female Fantasy. And the funny part is that I created that series for a certain website that I was dealing with at the time. And my little contribution to these blogs, and I encourage you over there, people in the chat room, to go and check it out. What I my contribution to it was that I named each and every one of these women, of these 15 women, I named them Jewish names. So, it's kind of funny that, someone is having a crazy, kind of threesome that she's named Rebecca, or she's having wild sex with 5 bikers, but she's named Sarah. It's interesting.
Oh. Yeah. Did you check out her website, the Smut Diaries?
I don't remember if I did. I think never mind.
Oh, well, Mel, considering you haven't had sex in 4.5 years, I think you need to read the Smut Diaries. It's very inspirational and it brings erotic thoughts to your mind, and it just allows it to wander through that genital field.
I like being the wandering Jew. I am a Jew.
Then I think you need to wander through the Smut Diaries.
Erotic photos that come with it.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, just to stimulate the mind and in all aspects of it. All the senses are coming together in a celebration of sexuality.
It almost feels like we're just sitting in a living room, 3 girls having a great conversation. This is like awesome.
That's exactly what we're doing. You just need to have some wine and stuff.
Exactly. I was just thinking that. Where's the wine? Where's the cheese?
I can make popcorn.
That would be great.
Oh my goodness. Has there been any more comments in the chat room, Mel?
I know, but Art Miller said that he saw the movie that she was talking about.
Oh, Art Miller.
And Lord Bubba says the American culture is wasted on the youth, sexual culture in America. So he says, yes, he goes, I think it's only in this country that it's wasted. I think that's what he meant by what he said. And they're just listening. Lord Bubba also says, so sex therapy can be applied to individuals as well as couples.
Of course, yes, that is a very good point.
Well, that is a good point.
Yeah, because I masturbate, but the date, I hate dates. I hate going on dates. I literally.
There's nothing fun about it because it's stressful. It became such a stressful kind of environment to go on a date. This is why you don't like it. Because I think the climate is what created this discomfort that you feel over a date. Because if it were something that was kind of, accommodating and friendly and pleasurable, then we wouldn't have minded. For instance, I always get asked if and oftentimes I have people report to me about fake profiles on different, dating sites, which I don't have on any of these sites. So if you come across it, it's not mine. But honestly, I find online dating a problem. Because of that, it's so stressful and so not pleasing that, people don't like it.
Well, no, but there's not a lot of options anymore. If you don't go to church, you know, and you don't go to the bars, where are you supposed to go? There's not that many single events for people that are not religious and don't drink.
Very true, and I don't do neither. I'm not religious, and I don't drink. But I find that the main idea of, and again, I don't, and maybe I'm a little romanticizing the whole idea of finding your soulmate or something. But to me, kind of pursuing it is the wrong path. I think that I think when the soul is ready, the mate is coming. That's how they say. So pursuing your soulmate depends on your readiness. And to top it off, I think that if you kind of pursue interests of yours, for instance, if you are a very intelligent person that likes reading and you like going to the library or you like taking courses or something of that sort, I think that the major idea of meeting someone that shares the same interests is the factor that should bring, more chances of success than going on an online dating or a pickup line in the street or something of that sort that is based on appearance or something like that. Because that usually doesn't sustain. And once you find something that you can find more in common, for instance, as I said, if you like playing a certain sport or if you like doing a certain, engaging in a certain activity, then you have that as a starting point, and that should kind of provide more than this basic, I am looking for a partner, you are looking for a partner, let's hook up. That's kind of less of a platform that I find that is suitable for finding someone that is actually gonna stick.
Well, yeah, I agree with that. My sister met her fiance scuba diving because she loves to scuba dive. He loves to scuba dive. That's how they met. It's a match made in heaven. And they're having a fantastic life. Mel, was there another question in the chat room?
Yeah, Art Miller has asked a question, and he says, what is your thoughts on meditation and mindfulness? Is there a role in sexual health or just a current fad?
I didn't hear the last word, or just what?
Or just a current fad?
Do you think he's referring to like the tantra sex people?
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, well, when he brought that up, I think that, there is a big kick right now that people are on, and I get guys in my rope classes all the time about the tantra sex thing. And it's all the rage. And, basically tantra is breathing, and it's breathing in unison. I know there's a little bit more to that, but it's just a different form of intimacy. And let me see, what was his question on that? Oh, the meditation and the mindfulness. The kick that people are trying to bring that to the forefront of their sexual relations. I think that's all cool and stuff, but sometimes we're just animals and want to fuck.
I'll drink to that.
We are animals that want to fuck, but I do, my point, I do find that both yoga, meditation, all these other forms of how we put mindfulness, I do find that there is some correlation to better sex, because I think that, and that applies, I speak from experience, even myself, I think that you are able to become a better lover and more attentive when you are at peace, with yourself. And a lot of people take a lot of inhibitions and discomfort into the bedroom, which creates bad sexuality. So I do find that once you practice other forms of kind of peacefulness, mindfulness, and better well-being, contentedness, other forms of things, of that form, of that kind of thought process, then you are able to kind of surrender to the game of sexuality in a manner. Because if you are at peace, you're not concerned with the way your ass looks, or you're not concerned that you're gonna, ejaculate quick and not satisfy your partner, because you were, and I'm not talking about tantric sex, that's a whole different story, and to me, a bit overrated. But, that's a whole different discussion. But I do find that once you are comfortable with yourself, and that comes from applying all these other methodologies, we would call them, yes, sex becomes better, and you become a better lover and more kind of aware of your partner and yourself.
Very good.
I like that.
Yeah,
I like that advice a lot.
that was good advice.
That was really good advice.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, no, it's good. It is excellent advice.
Meditation is what I do. Now I have to incorporate sex in it. Yeah, that would be good. I could do some audio tapes of meditations that want me to go out and have more sex. I think I'll drink to that.
Take the elevator down into the vagina. Relax into it. Breathe. Bring up. Release. Ooh.
And come.
Ooh.
And come. And come. Squirt. Are you a squirter? Squirt. You will become a squirter after this meditation. I'm sorry.
She just needs to get laid. Oh my goodness. It has been so fun having you on the show. This has been an absolute blast.
That's a pleasure to me. I wish I could see you guys. It's always such a pleasure to see your lovely faces. But maybe next time we were able to do this all in one package.
Yes, we'll definitely.
Seeing and hearing.
Yeah, I definitely would love to have you on the show again. But it is 10:37, and I think it's just about time for most of our audience members to kind of go to bed or go have sex. I don't know. Is there anything that you would like to add to our audience? Websites, contact numbers, any messages that you want to get out today for our final closing?
Well, I just want to say, take it slow and be attentive and be truthful to who you are when you practice sexuality and good relationships. I think it's the major kind of stepping stones into a good kind of foundation for a better self and a better companionship. And they can go to my site, drlimor.com, so it's drlimor.com, and hit me there and send me a message if they have a question. And of course, read the Slut Diaries. And that's it. I'm just wishing you the best night and a great rest of the week.
Well, thank you so much. And I want to thank everybody for... Next week, my guest is going to be Vivian Vidette. She's been on before. She is getting ready to take her switch test at Sanctuary, so we get to hear all about all the stuff she's been practicing and how excited she is to be promoted from being a professional submissive to being a professional switch. So this is going to be a fun show getting caught up with Vivian. So thank you so much, Dr. Limor, and good night, everybody.
You guys, it was great.